Hi there, we're Seven Illusions.
Welcome to Enigma Media.
You push for this other me.
What up, headbangers? How you doing? I'm Rob O'Day, and welcome to the greasiest of all time. Today we're chilling with Dark Originn out of Vancouver. How you guys doing?
We're doing pretty good. Good.
Why don't you introduce yourselves and let us know how the band got together?
Well, I'm Loki Metal. I guess you can refer to me as vocals.
Originn, big guitar.
Aaron Bromberg, play the drums.
And I'm Mike Hales. I'm the bassist and co-founder of the band along with Loki. Shit, man, we've been playing for like together forever. Last over 10 years now.
10 years.
We met through a fellow friend, and I just kind of jumped in one day and started playing bass for them. Literally, like I showed up to hang out, and they asked me to join. I said, sure.
That's funny.
Yeah. And Don and I, we really just kind of clicked as a kind of a writing team.
I used to say, Mike is my Twiggy to my Marilyn Manson, but that doesn't seem to be politically correct these days. So,
Right? Because Twiggy is also like a crazy Satanist and like devil worshiper. I loved Twiggy, right? He was the shit. That's cool. So you guys have been working together for a while.
Right?
yeah, originally when it started, I started this, I picked up a bass guitar, and it got to the point that nobody would play with me. It was so bad. So I ended up getting a drum loop machine and showing up to all these open mics, and nobody, oh, you play mud metal, and blah, 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 blah. And nobody wanted to play with me. Well, I hatched it out for about 2 years and found myself a guitar player. Now, at that point, I was writing lyrics, and I'm a crappy bass player. So we got a drummer, and eventually we couldn't find a singer anywhere, anybody that would fit Dark Originn, the thought of the band. So I said, okay, well, how's this? I'll sit in as vocalist just to get us through this, and I'll contact Mike. And Mike ended up showing up, started playing bass. We continued on after, I don't know, 6 or 7 months. I thought to myself, well, you guys should get a better singer. And Mike was like, no, man, we're stuck with you now. So, and 10 years later, here we are doing our thing.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that keeps us alive.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How was
Metal is
COVID?
life, man. Metal is fucking life, man.
It is for sure. I mean, yeah, if it wasn't for guitar, I probably wouldn't be here. I would have been gone a long time ago.
Fuck yeah, man. I mean, we're not young guys, and we've been doing this for a long time, and this keeps you going, man. This is the reason why you are, this is a lifelong thing.
Mhm.
Dead a long time ago.
Yeah. That's
Right.
our old Dark Originn, right? So that's how we got the name. So
How has COVID affected you guys down in Vancouver?
no shows,
Yeah.
not planning anything. So basically, we just kind of like, we went to isolation. Of course, everybody went to isolation at first last year.
Mm-hmm.
And it really just shut down everything. And then we just kind of slowly started getting back together again, writing new stuff and coming up with new stuff. And so we got ourselves checked out, made sure that we were okay, because we all live alone, man. We're all like isolation. It's fucking.
Not me, man. I'm married.
Well, he's married, but
Mhm.
we're all guys who are pretty isolated already in our lives. So this is a part of our, they're very small, very much part of our own personal bubble, I guess you could say. Thanks, guys. That's
Yeah.
age, right? But anyway, so
No shows.
no shows. So we wound up writing more, and actually we got ourselves together and we did our album. We got our album recorded,
Mhm.
and we're getting it together to get it released, which should be coming soon, hopefully. So yeah.
That's awesome.
So we're well on way. We're writing for our second album. It's a little bit different sound because Oleg. This is our our next generation of the band kind of thing, our next chapter kind of thing that we've moved into.
Yeah.
Because we got our old stuff recorded finally in the way we wanted it to sound, and we're very, very happy with it. So we got those recorded. So now it's like moving on to the next chapter of the band, and it's similar, a little different, a little heavier, meaner. It's gonna be it's a lot of fun. It's really fucking a cool sound that we have.
That's awesome.
Moved on to the 7-string guitar, tune things a little heavier. So, yeah.
What could go wrong,
What could
man?
go wrong?
Right. No, it's funny because when I was listening to your stuff earlier today, the only two bands I could come in my head were like a mixture between Old School Misfits and Motorhead, and on the
Nice.
recordings, right? And I loved it. And I'm like, that's fucking badass. Like, you don't see a lot of that anymore, right?
A little bit of Ministry, maybe.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Yeah. And there's other things that have influenced us as you grew up, right? And stuff that you listen to even still now, right? Everything from Killing Joke to Motorhead, like I said, old Metallica, old Slayer,
Yeah.
old Ministry, and some of the old darker stuff that's out there, the old dark electronica that we kind of grew up listening to, like Skinny Puppy, and taking out that the old Nine Inch Nails and that sort of thing, having that kind of coloring, like some of rhythms and beats and how they do it, kind of thing.
Whatever's dark, we got it, man.
Yeah. So it's and what's coming out now out of us is some pretty epic-y stuff, and we're definitely going into a very interesting direction right now. So musically,
it's cool how you change over the time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're evolving, man. And it's really, really, really exciting.
Yeah, it's a humbling experience too, because you think usually when bands start off, they want to be the most brutal, and then they move into this musician aspect, and then eventually it's like they just want to write really good music.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's slower or a ballad, or if it's like a greasy fucking thrash song. It just, if it's what the band wants, versus,
exactly.
And I think that staying true to yourself kind of just, it determines what a band is.
Oh, absolutely. Right. And it's like with our finally getting our old stuff recorded, it's like we finally came out of our cage now, right? Like that was the stuff we kind of we sat on for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And now with Ole coming to us and joining us, and with Aaron too, and what he contributes to with his drumming, and it's a bit of a different style than what we were, because that was a band that had different members and there's a different era. And now it's that's with our new stuff, like we're open, we're free now. We kind of came out of the cage with the old stuff. Now we're moving into the new stuff, which is like a whole new vista of creation and creativity that's wait for us to go to. And it's really, really fucking exciting, man. Like we're really fucking stoked. Yeah.
It's always fun when you I don't know, I always find I get so bored of the older songs, you know what I mean? Like you've played them for so long, and once you start playing new shit, you're just like, oh my god, this is so like, it's like reinvigorating almost. It just like rejuvenates you and makes you want to write more, and then all of a sudden you get back into that writing and what you loved about it in the first place.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Feeling of relief.
It's like the tension is the writing out, the recording aspect. You're trying to make it perfect, and you're just tense up, and then all of a sudden a new song, you're like, what am I going to write about? It's a great feeling.
The quote of Picasso, he once said, how do you know when the painting is finished? He goes, well, the painting is never finished. You have to abandon it. You're going to be there all the time.
There we go.
Picking and choosing and doing this and tweaking that. No, it's never going to sound
the
way that you truly, truly, truly want it to be.
Yeah. And it's, we also, I find a lot of musicians nowadays aren't going to be appreciated in their time because there's so much out there.
Yeah,
so there's going to be a lot of bands that get picked up or like bigger way down the road, and they're not going to be a band anymore, kind of a thing, because there's so many bands out there.
Oh yeah, I mean, look at all the bands you've interviewed already in a short amount of time. There's plenty more, plenty more. I mean, this is definitely like a lifelong project you could be on, interviewing all the bands that exist.
Yeah,
so many, and everybody plays a very similar style, right? And we're just kind of, we're doing our own thing, I guess.
Just trying to keep the metal alive, man.
Yeah, but just, we're doing it too, you know.
Yeah, and I think
All the
that's
younger
that's all
guys
that
are-
really matters, right? I find too many people get caught up in the Facebook likes and the social media aspect of it. It's not
Yeah.
about a popularity contest. It's not about how many likes you have. It's fuck it. Are you writing music you enjoy doing? If so, you're
Yep.
probably going to gain more fans that way then. And
I
genuine
hope-
fans at least.
I hope so. We want to, you know, attract people who dig listen to music, you know,
Mhm.
and want to hear the playing and want to hear, you know, our little fuck ups that are in there somewhere, you know. But I want people to be able to, you know, like what we're doing, and because we're doing stuff that we like to hear,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of coming out this way. You know, we hear a bunch of stuff that we like, and then, you know, it comes through the filters, comes out through here, and it's you know, a different way of us interpreting our new direction, whichever way we're going, right?
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, it's really exciting, man, especially with Oleg too, because you have a really, really fucking cool style, man. I mean, you hear his solos and our stuff. I'm biased as fuck, but you know, his solos and some of the stuff that we do just blows my mind. This, you know, it reminds me of like so many like great guitar players that you've heard here out there. I mean, you played with everybody. You were in some pretty serious band. Yeah. Who you play with, man? You played with
My Own Chaos, Sister Sabbath, Spirits in Black, Slayer Tribute. That was fun. For 2 shows we did with that band, but they were the best 2 shows of my life. Man. Security man was not having a good night.
That's funny.
Like pop 340, give him Slayer. I had a fun history, but you know, and I'm in that tradition of keeping it fun. I'm glad that I was able to find these guys, you know, and we could help each other out there.
Yeah.
You know.
Mhm.
because you said, hey man, you when you approached me, you said I'd love to come play with you guys.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah,
Ever since
I got surprised. You okay? Sure.
recording my own shit, you know, with the YouTube drums or something, you know, and I'm like, well, and these guys, I saw them looking for a guitar player. I'm like, let's make each other's life a little easier, you know. And it
Mhm.
clicked, and yeah, like the new album, it's getting written really fast. And we haven't released the first one officially yet. This one's almost done, you know.
I mean, you can hear it on YouTube. I put up, you know, like you heard the YouTube links and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So we post
Like
on our-
Marauder and all that. The links that you
Marauder.
sent me, yeah.
and the second album.
There's nothing from the second album.
Oh, nothing yet. No.
No. Yes.
We'll still kind of like ironing it out.
Yeah,
Don't
no.
worry, it won't take long.
Oh no, this stuff's kind of like becoming their own entities. These songs are really pretty cool. Really fucking heavy, really fun to play.
Yeah, it's weird
Absolutely.
how it just kind of flows.
Absolutely, you know, and with Aaron too being our backbone drummer too, man. I mean, he keeps us in the pocket.
Metal Heart.
Oh, Metal Heart, absolutely. You know, you're from Texas, right? Austin.
Yeah, I moved up here from Austin, end of 2018 or so.
Oh, geez.
And so down there, I was playing in a lot of like, you know, alt rock and other like indie bands, like, you know, the stuff that's going on down there. But you know, I started off playing metal and then came up here and found Don and Mike, and they were looking for a drummer. So yeah, so we got it together, and you know, it clicked. They like what I do, and I figured they'll keep me around as long as they continue to like what I do.
Right. And Texas has a wicked scene too.
Absolutely.
An insane music scene. Like the bands that come out of there are just fucking gnarly.
Yeah.
A lot of competition.
Yeah.
A lot of competition down there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, up here it's not so much. Like, I don't know. I think our competition's more with the venues than it is with other bands. It's like, fuck you guys.
We don't want to
Hire
play
us.
together. Yeah, well, especially with other bands. I mean, you know, we all want to play together and do shows together or something
Mhm.
like that. And finding venues that, you know, they're getting to be few and far between, especially with COVID. I mean, they're just shutting down one after the other, right? They can't do,
Yeah.
you know, the rents are so freaking high, especially in Vancouver.
Mhm.
You know, all the rents that these guys got to pay. I don't know how they do it. You know.
Yeah,
It's pay to
our
play.
scene's dead.
Yeah,
I
some
hate to
places.
say it, but it is. We have to rebuild it from the ground up at this point. I mean, it wouldn't be too hard. We got a lot of fucking epic bands, so we just get all together and get somebody who knows security, you know, somebody who does sound, just like, fuck it, we're building our own festival.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
probably where we'll start. We'll probably start with just like a big festival, and then there are enough people who play around, enough bands still here in Vancouver that are still putting stuff together that the bars eventually will come back around and there'll be stages again. It's just a matter of a matter of just starting the cycle over again.
yeah. Yeah, it's
We
gonna
didn't
be
want
a
to
unique
do it
time.
again, man.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Very, up here we have a pretty good community, Vancouver,
Mhm.
of metal bands. I mean, everybody, everybody knows everybody. And everybody's played with everybody at one point, or been to their shows, or done shows together and that sort of thing. And there's a lot of great bands up here.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
No, I grew up with watching a lot of the local bands. So it was watching the scene 15 years ago to what it is now. It's completely changed. It's almost like heartbreaking because I remember bands would like rent out churches and have all ages shows, and you'd have 300 kids my
Yeah.
age at like 15 coming to a show, and you're like crowd surfing and shit, and you don't see that unless you go to a festival. So it's, I don't know, I think the whole concept of the bar scene kind of killed live music, along with how
Kind of maybe bring it back. Yeah, like bringing it back to the community kind of thing. Bring it back to the kids. I mean, like turn them on to it, right?
Yeah, because I mean, now generation's kids, like, they listen to 30-second clips of auto-tuned stuff that's like turned into chipmunk music, and you're like, what the fuck is this? I don't know, like,
Yeah.
5-year-olds that don't even know what a guitar is. Like, it's just a weird world for me. I was raised by musicians, so like my whole family plays, and
Nice.
I was the only one who actually decided to turn it into a career and pursue it. So I've been at it for 20 years now, but like, I'll never quit,
That's
even
probably the thing to do, and it's as hard any place else as it is here to actually become a full-time professional musician.
Mhm.
So it's just picking away at it, plugging away until like you find enough people who like what you're doing, and then hopefully they will pay you money for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that we all have a weird mentality too about how we look at it. Most people look at it with their band, we need 1 million fans. You don't really need 1 million fans, you need like 500 dedicated fans that are gonna pay for your shit. So I think the industry now is gonna completely change to, because we're more self-sufficient as bands, we can record for ourselves, we can do our own bookings, we don't have to worry about record labels so much, like major record labels.
Everybody distributes their own stuff somehow through their own way, through their own little, like microbreweries,
Mhm.
right? It's very similar.
Yeah, you definitely have to adapt, and you have to
That's
know how to sell a product.
That's a double-edged sword because it's much easier now to write and just record and distribute your own stuff by yourself. Now that there's a lot more people who can do that, there's a lot more people doing that. So there's a lot more music to compete with, a lot more, you're now competing for ears out there more than you used to.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of competition, but I think that COVID will have deterred a lot of bands. Like it was such a change from performing to gain fans to have to put out content and videos and market properly and put out ads and appeal and reach out to podcasts and all these other things. Like, we weren't used to that. That was what a manager was for. So it's like we were either thrown into the business aspect of it and like, here, take care of your fucking shit, or you're not going to be a band because you're not going to get anywhere. A lot of the bands that didn't adapt to that are going to be way behind or have either died.
And we're kind of older guys too. We're kind of, we used to do in the old school way of, like just knocking on doors, but, and then, dealing now with social media and how to promote yourself through social media and how to manage that and to get yourself like kind of seen here and there, and, and finding the right platforms to be on that someone will see you, or someone might, a bunch of people will hear your stuff and appreciate it. So you got kind of like, I guess, kind of like scatter it out, sprinkle it out all over all different platforms as much as you can. Kind of thing.
Mhm.
There's so many of them, right? So
And you got to find the right community within those platforms, like our Facebook groups, the metal groups, like that Dan's holding and hosting.
yeah,
Like Dan Lowy, he is an amazing person for the community. Like I wish there was more people like him. You know what I mean? Because
yeah, I've been following him for a little while now, and he's a real positive for it. Absolutely.
yeah, we need that's and there used to be a lot of people like that, and those were like the promoters. You know what I mean? Like COVID's done, I can see him being able to put on shows anywhere if you really wanted to. The amount of networking he's done and connections he's got, like he's a genius. I love the way he does things. He's it's for the love of the community, not the music's popularity aspect. You know, he's not trying to get it to get his own followers because he's not making his own page that follows him. You know, he's building something for the world to do.
Exactly.
Which is
It's not
nice.
just about him. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's not just about him and him. It's about everybody. He's shining his light on everybody, which is great, right? That's exactly what he needs to do.
Yeah, and
know,
there's no
definitely
bias. He's not like judgmental, which is nice. It's we need more people like that, especially in our community, because our community worldwide has actually died. And I think it really was the popularity contest that social media kind of just slowly worked towards, and eventually was just like whoever has the most likes is the best band. That's not the fucking case, because you can pay for likes. Like you can pay $100 and get like 1,000 likes. You know what I mean? So
it's not fair. It's not a fair game. It's not a fair playing field at all.
no.
And like you don't get paid for likes. Like you know,
Mhm.
you get paid for when people buy your albums or go to your shows or when they buy your merch. And that's how you know how popular your band is. People are buying your stuff.
I miss the days of flyers. You know, you'd be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, dude, they're fucking playing," and then you like steal the flyer and bring it home and put it on your
The
wall.
cool posters and stuff like that. Oh
Yeah, like that's
Show
dead.
posters.
I want to see that come back. I think it can. I think it will too. I don't know. I have this weird vision that there's going to be two separate music industries after all this. There's going to be what we've created as independent artists.
Yeah.
And there's going to be the major record label industry with the pop artists, and they're going to kind of do what they want until they die. And then eventually we'll have ours still.
Yeah. It's like metal has always been kind of somewhat sort of underground anyway. It's always been kind of an underground music form, music genre.
Even when it was popular, it was still hated.
Oh yeah. You know, it's like it was, like you said, hated, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, but it's not. It's a great
I mean,
music.
man, I loved it.
Right.
Well, you know,
I fucking
reviled, right? But
it was considered low art. It
what I
was,
think
you
I think
know,
it is people
Yeah.
don't when they hear metal, like metal music, they hear that, they picture in their brain scary. You know what I mean? But like there's so many bands out there that you can get anyone into metal, any person into metal, just by choosing the right band to introduce them to it, right? Then they hear that distorted fucking guitar and like a mild scream in the back, and they're all of a sudden hooked. And that's all it takes is that one band. And I think
the hair of the arms sort of coming up, and they start
Right?
getting that feeling. It's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, and then they understand, oh shit, that's what I've been missing out on. And I think that the elitism where it's like, oh, that's not metal, that's not this. It's if it's introducing new fans to get into heavier music, fuck yeah. You know what I mean? That's dope. I like that. So it's nice to see that. It'd be nice to see that community again, because there is a big we're spread apart in our genres, I guess. Like, you go into certain groups and you see like there are certain groups like don't post metalcore here. This is just straight death metal. It's like
it's fine. It's like, oh,
metal.
come on, don't be elitist. Come on.
Yeah. So it kind of drives me nuts because it's separating us. It's doing exactly what like the political aspect of the world is doing to us. It's separating us from unity, but we're doing it to our own music, where our music has always been united. So it's weird to see it kind of dissolving slowly over the past 5 years.
Doesn't metal have like the most subgenres out of any kind of music?
Yeah. And I mean, like way before that was like, I think the documentary that talked about it was like, I was like 12 when that came out, and there was like 100 subgenres then. So like, I can't even describe my band. Like, there's no way. I have a hardest time because I'm like, it's metal, it's music. Like, I don't fucking care what genre it is. Yeah.
have the same problem though. I mean, like you still get the fights over who started punk, who's a punk band, who's not a punk band, who's a poser, who's not a poser. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like at the end of the day, it's like, do you like the music or do you not like the
Mhm.
music? And are these people actually like singing about like their experiences, or singing about stuff that you can identify with? Like it's either good music or it's not good.
Like the No True Scotsman kind of thing too, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's West Metal, it's like everything. The whole thing
Yeah.
is, there's different flavors, like ice cream. It's like ice cream. It's got all their flavors, right?
Yeah. I think lyrics too. A huge thing is people kind of like detached from lyrics in music, because like you can ask anybody, oh, listening to a pop song, and they're like, oh, I love this song. And you're like, well, why do you love it? And they're like, I love the beat. It's always I
Yeah.
love the beat. It's never I love the lyrics, because the lyrics don't mean shit. They're talking about the same garbage always, There's no it's I always call pop music the McDonald's of music, because it's just like it doesn't do anything but just fill you with garbage.
Yeah.
So it's weird to think that, and I feel like electronic music itself, it did a lot for music industry. I mean, it opened up for a lot of independent artists, because a lot of electronic artists did it themselves. You know what I mean? They became huge by themselves, which kind of opened up. And I mean, metal, like I spoke with Heaven's Void, and their lead singer was saying that metal is always 3 years behind every fad, because we're kind of too stubborn as a united group to ever just accept, like even TikTok, we're slowly getting at it, where TikTok's blown up for 3 years now or so, and it's like we're finally slowly getting to it. And same with Instagram. And it's because we don't care about that. We care about music. And I think that the popularity aspect has come from social media and from how quickly electronic artists would rise and fall, because there was always a new fad. And as I used to produce EDM, so for me it was like it never got anywhere, because there was so much out there. You can never compete, you know what I mean? And that you see it in the pop world. You got one day they're the top number one, the next day you never hear them again. And that doesn't happen in our genre. Like you don't ever hear a one-hit wonder metal band unless it's like, I don't know, Godsmack or like Disturbed, because like there is that
Pop metal.
pop metal, and that's the easiest way. It's popular metal, but it's not like five flavored fruit punch. I can't stand them. So for me,
Steal that.
That's a good one. I like that.
oh man, there's so many out there. It's like that one actor that everyone makes fun of, like Bumberling Cumberbatch. There's so many names for Five Finger Death Punch. It's funny.
Yeah.
But it's so easy. It's so easy for people to just absorb, that they don't even really pay attention to what they're listening to. So for like me, it's like they're like the Limp Bizkit of today. That's how I see it. Because Limp Bizkit had good instrumentals, but I mean, Fred Durst talked about bullshit. It didn't matter. So,
But it rhymed.
yeah,
Right, yeah.
he
It
did
rhymes
influence. He did
90s.
influence. I have to give him that, because I do rap over metal. So for me, if it wasn't for him and a couple others, it wouldn't have happened. So music has to adapt, and I think we have to adapt.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
yeah, we always adapt, and
It always has, right?
Mhm.
Metal's been
all our influences. I mean, everything that we listen to will influence what we put into our music. So, like the idea of having like rap lyrics on top of metal. I mean, that's
absolutely.
that was from metal guys listening to rap and rap guys listening to metal.
Yeah.
You got your chocolate in our peanut butter. You got your peanut butter in our chocolate.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A lot of bands like that. So
I always had a theory with that too. It's always easy. Like if you're good at hip hop and you can tell a story and you can be, articulate with your words enough to that people can like fall into your lyrics, like a good hip hop artist, and put that over metal, you can tell the greatest stories. So I think that's when I utilize it, is because it's storytelling, that's what metal is. But I think when you get to like, I don't know, like I said, there's so many different genres of metal, and there's tons of genres I can't stand. Like that weird fucking, I don't even know how to describe it. They act like they have swords and shields, and you know what I mean? They're just like, we're Viking warriors, but in reality, it's like it's 2021. None of us are really warriors. Like no one holds a sword. So
it's entertaining though,
it is. It's super entertaining, especially because that's what it's for. And I think that I think there's another meaning behind their lyrics that people don't ever really understand too, because I always find it's an underlined thing with metal. Like you hear one thing, and then there's another thing that you'll never understand until 10 times, 16 times you hear the song. You know, like later down the road, you're like, holy fuck, like that's what he means by that. And then I love how that can happen like 10 years later. And I think that's the beauty of music, where storytelling is involved, because it is, when you're doing like double entendres and metaphors in music, it makes it art versus just like the basic lyric, like how pop singers will sing. And I think that's it. That's what used to intrigue people in music. And now I think it pushes them away from it. Like you can't have an 8-minute song because no one will listen to it. As we're
That's
like,
right.
fuck, I would love to listen to an 8-minute long song.
Dark Originn's first album, actually, being the lyricist, is more or less a sermon. It's a collection of sermons and
Mhm.
a degradation of humankind. And I feel it's very lyrically intense, and it's as relative now
Mhm.
as it was when I originally wrote this stuff. The lyrics are everything to me. Yes, the music keeps me going, it keeps the heartbeat going, keeps everything going.
Mhm.
But again, I like to think I'm standing on a soapbox.
Yeah.
Spewing my brain.
That's exactly how I feel too. Like you
Yeah.
got the megaphone.
Yeah.
It's a weird concept. Like you do have that ability as a vocalist to be able to send a message. Like music can send a message itself. Like the instrumentals will send its power, its emotion, its the anger, everything about it. But lyrics will be the thing that ropes people into that, because it's always lyrics you hear first.
I find history to be a very good teacher.
Mhm.
So, I find it easy to lyricize of what's going on. Like even the pandemic, the new album has kind of a certain flavor to it.
Mhm.
I don't know if we'll call it viral. No,
Right. Yeah.
So, again, back to the band, I'm really looking forward to the new album. Again, everything's expanding lyrically, musically. We've gone to a 7-string. Consider Mike to be the 5-string motherfucker.
Right.
So, we're going somewhere with our music. And when it comes down to being popular, I understand being a band.
Hope you like it.
But when it really comes down to it, guys, and anybody that's watching, I do it for myself. So even if we have a show and say nobody shows up, it doesn't matter. We're still playing the goddamn show because
As hard as possible.
that's what we do, man.
Yeah.
That's what we do. It all started in 1981 for me with Motorhead and Toronto Coliseum. And that was the end of it, man. So on the West Coast, and here we are.
Right. Yeah, it's funny how you can basically connect with any metalhead, whether or not you listen to the same music, whether or not you've met each other, or even in the same country. Like I've talked to people from all over the world, and I just feel like I've known them forever. You know what I mean? It's a weird thing, because I don't think anything else has that the unity, like unspoken like unity, which is a weird. I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's super
really
cool.
isn't many of us. There's quite a few, but compared to other things, there's not many of us. Not really worldwide, I guess. Metalheads and that sort of thing worldwide. There's,
Well, there used to be.
It used to be.
Ozfest, fucking Metal Mayhem. Those crowds were awesome.
Yeah.
South America, those festivals in South America that they had, Iron Maiden went down and played. All the big bands would go down and play down there. Was it Rio?
Yeah, Rock in
Rio.
Rock and Rio.
People there, like
Donington.
Yeah.
Donington. Except that happens in Europe.
Even going back to the Elf Festival in the 70s, which I wasn't there, but that was Van Halen and all the rest of them started. And there was like 250,000 open.
Monsters of Rock.
There's just something about Canada, I think. Like every other country like embraces metal but Canada.
Yeah.
Realistically.
Yeah.
Like Toronto does, but not anybody
Our
else.
metal fest that we have here in BC, there's off the top of my head.
Loud as hell.
Loud as Hell. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them.
Festivals?
Yeah, festivals.
Loud as Hell, Metalocalyptic. Yeah, there's a bunch of wicked festivals.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
like, I love Metalocalyptic. Shout out to Kaya, because like, I love the fact that she brings in strictly bands that have female members.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only reason I got to play, is because our singer was a female. But like, it's so cool to see how many females are in metal, especially just like in Canada. It's mind blowing, and so many talented bands.
Women have got to be in metal because they're really good, you know, and they can sing better than most guys. So, you know,
Oh, fuck. Yeah, no, 100%.
They can play better than most guys too. Like I see, there's some wicked female guitarist players out there that need to, you know, to be have a light shone on them too, right? You know, everybody, you know, and the whole metal community is a very diverse community, and it should be.
It is, for sure. And I think everybody's got their own cool flavor too, because I was supposed to interview a band yesterday, but we had to reschedule. They're from Alberta, called Siren. And so, dude, if you haven't heard them, listen to them. They're like the coolest combination of like a female singer, but it's like Iron Maiden-esque. And she's got like this, there's a whole theme to the band. And I love the theme because it's so cool to see a different outlook, I guess, or a different like concept besides like the typical warrior or black metal. Like, it's cool to see something completely different using like history of the Sirens. And I love that because it's just so cool. And like, man, such a sick band. And it's just like, you hear that and you're like, this is Canada. This is coming from our country, but why aren't they big? Why aren't any of these bands that are amazing big? It's because our country doesn't appeal to, it used to appeal to musicians highly. Like they would give out tour grants. And
they're very concentrated though, right? You know, the centers that the music was coming from, even
Toronto, scene in Toronto, like 80s, 90s. I mean, all those bands that were coming out of there, like Pursuit of Happiness, and Max Webster in the 70s, and Gatto, Teenage Head. It was the epicenter of music. And like even Rush had to go to the United States to get popular. And, you know, welcome to Canada.
You know, it's always been a problem in Canada to push, you know, independent music, right?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's super weird too, because like, I mean, America has so many festivals for metal. You know what I mean? Like, they've embraced metal full out now to the point where you hear it in pop culture. But Europe has for forever. UK loves it. Japan absolutely loves metal. You know, like Russia loves it. Why? Every country has embraced it, but Canada's still like, no, don't do that. And it kind of drives me nuts because it is hard to, I mean, what is more important in a culture than art, especially music? You know what I mean?
It's what defines a culture.
Yeah, for thousands of years. And I feel like our culture, our country, which was based on multiculturalism, but I feel like we haven't developed our culture. I always say that North America is like the teenager who colors their hair, wears the spike collar, and like, you know what I mean? Like the fishnet arms and stuff. Like, they're just that teenager who hasn't discovered who they are. And I think that's why there's been so much crazy shit over the past 2 years, 3 years, you know, where now everything has a classification, or everything will separate you from someone else. And I think that's, you know, Europe had that thousands of years ago.
That's all just marketing. That's just people trying to figure out how best to separate you from your money, because that's what classification does. It's like, oh, you like black metal, so here are 5 bands that we were going to
call black metal.
Yeah. So that's all. Like, the classification is all just marketing. For me, Canada has been kind of slow, I think, with metal, with promoting metal, or their own metal, is because, like I said before, it's still kind of considered low art up here. It's you know, like, if you look at the Canadian bands, that a lot of the Canadian bands that have gone internationally popular, they tend to be more rock and roll, pop, or like other genres. It's also a matter of the money as well. Those genres tend to bring in more money than metal does. Just like in general.
Oh yeah.
So
it's insane to see how many bands have done it themselves and made it out of Canada, right? Like, I'd really like to get Spirit Box on here one day, because they're from Vancouver Island, right? And they're massive now. Like, they've taken off. But it'd be nice to hear a local band talk about how fucking hard it was for them to get out of here. You know what I mean? Like, so like, I'm probably gonna reach out one day. Like, I don't know, but I think it'd be a cool conversation to have with them, because I've heard they're genuine people. Like
Yeah.
the last interview we had with Antagonist, their singers like best friends with Alex from I can't remember which band at the top of my head, but yeah, he's got connections with them. And he's like, we were doing a photo shoot at this place and they were there and they were like asking if they needed us to move. And I'm like, they're total BC people. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, we'll get out of your way, even though they're like they're first doing a photo shoot. Yeah. So it was a cool conversation, but like I've heard they're genuine people and it'd be a nice conversation to hear, like for like bands like us, you know, where we're emerging, we're still trying to figure out how the hell we can do it. Cause BC, we're the last frontier, man. There's nothing here. Like Vancouver's got what I think it's like 2 million people. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then outside of Vancouver is like 2 million people, like in like Surrey and all that. And then you go 2 million people, the rest of BC.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like, there's right. So realistically, bands never want to come here because it's only Vancouver. It costs too much to fly all the way to the west to move all the way to the east just to hit 3 towns.
Yeah.
Gotta sneak them in from Seattle. But anybody who goes to Seattle, we got a lure up front like an hour, 4 hours.
And also, you know, that increases the ticket prices too, that sort of thing. Right?
Yeah.
That probably adds to that overall price of the, you know, for big names who put it on their tickets. You know.
Yeah, I think that was one of there's a recent poll talking about that. It's like why Canadians don't go to ticket or concerts anymore, and it was ticket prices. Was the number was like 81% people said that.
Yep. Yeah.
And
you
that,
know,
but
$300 for a decent ticket. Like, oh my god, just think
right.
now.
Well, then why not just save that $300 and go to a year of $5 shows with all local bands?
Absolutely. Every
Right?
weekend, and that's including your phone. I don't know if that would cover your bar tab, but
Yeah,
you know, it might.
exactly. And that's the thing is it's getting people to pay attention to you in a world that has like no attention span is the hardest fucking thing ever.
Yeah.
So if we're really only playing to other musicians, but there's a ton of musicians out there, so we're kind of good if we can get to know each other, you know what I mean, kind of a thing. But even then, yeah. So I think building genuine fans nowadays is the hardest, and it'll be interesting when things open up to see how people actually network with each other after a year of.
I think it's very exciting what the future holds, actually, because especially when, like once COVID, everything opens up again, and you know, see what venues survive and who's doing what and that sort of thing, and it gets all felt out. I think also all the music that we're all been like writing, sitting on, like all the bands, there's going to be some amazing shit coming out. Like holy cow!
Yeah.
Oh yeah, everybody.
And I mean, it's beautiful thing already because you see, I think it's since I started interviewing, I think I have 6 bands that I've talked to have been signed.
Yeah.
To independent labels.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And that's like right after my interview with Siberian, they signed. You know what I mean? Like I think they already had it, the paperwork done. They couldn't say anything, so they announced it after. But it was like, yeah, it's cool to see.
That's cool though. Yeah.
Us getting noticed because these major labels, like I've said in other interviews, these major artists that we watch and we love and we pay $300 to go see, they're not making any money right now, and they owe their record labels millions of dollars. Like, especially when you sign a 360 deal, man. Like you're never getting out of that. It's called 360 for a reason. You know what I mean? Like
you're in all the way around.
Yeah, they give you $1 million and you're paying 1.5 back for every. So you're putting 0.5 on like 500 million or 500,000 every million they give you. So you're never getting out of debt. Hence why the Kanyes and stuff all have to branch out, right?
Yeah.
One thing that has gotten better though is that artists in the 70s, especially in the 80s, like musicians didn't know about how badly they were getting screwed because they didn't understand contracts, they had no concept of it. But then like they went through all this shit and then told everybody else, like basically told their story to the rest of us. Yeah. So now pretty much I would expect every band that's even considering signing with a label already has some idea of
what they're going in
a little bit, or at least get somebody who knows how to read a contract.
Yeah. That's why I like independent labels. You know what I mean? Like they're not in it for the money. You know, they're not going to make money off of a band that nobody knows. Yeah. So but they work with you, you work together. And I think that's a cool thing. And I think independent labels are definitely going to take over more and more and more and more and more until the point where these major labels like Roadrunner and all these are slowly going to end up having to reach out to these younger bands because no one's buying them big bands, right? So I
They've
think
all
it's
been heard before.
yeah, and they owe so much,
All
right?
been
Like
heard before.
Or cheaper.
their only
Some
way
people-
they make money is merch and touring, and none of them have done either for a year, right? None of these big bands have played any tours or festivals, so I mean, they're gonna have a hard catch-up game, and the record labels are gonna lose a lot of money from it. So I think a lot of them are reaching out and looking now, and I think that's like right now is the perfect time for bands to be reaching out and or putting music out and just working their ass off because yeah, right now is like the time you'll get noticed.
What it reminds me of is actually, remember like at the end of the 80s into the 90s, how things like how music started to change. We're all dudes, right? But it's like when music changed then, right? Like when went into the 1990s or the 1980s, like
Mhm.
oh, independent rock kind of came out or grunge or
Yeah.
whatever, and all those bands that came out of Seattle and the West Coast push of everything opening up like that. That was really cool, and it's kind of like this kind of what it reminds me of.
Mhm.
You know, like this is going to be like a new era of music that's going to be coming, a new era
Yes.
of doing it, right? And it's pretty exciting, you know. And
Oh yeah.
you know, and with you like with you guys doing what you guys do and getting the word out, doing interviews and having a channel to do this on, and giving bands like us, you know, like a bit of a venue to say hi. We're out here, you know.
Mhm.
You know, this is like a whole new beginning, right? It's a
Yeah.
whole new next chapter of whatever this is, right? Whatever scene this is.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool to
And
see because and there's a lot of people that do the same kind of thing. You know what I mean? Where they're either doing review videos, like you have Jade, and you have a bunch of other people who do that, and they
Oh,
all,
yeah.
you know, we have a wicked community, especially just in BC. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that what I hope is that after COVID, somebody realizes how much they can utilize just an all ages venue with bands, 4 bands, you know, just open up a 2-stage venue with a fucking, you know, concession stand and
Yep.
you can rent it out and play shows. Like they would make so much more money than trying to just like keep opening
Yeah.
bars and have to
Kids
worry
know
about
that's what
that.
they do.
And that's the thing. And
Yeah.
we bitch and complain about our opioid crisis, but we don't give anything to the children, and they're the ones who are slowly dying and getting addicted. So I
Yeah.
think if the you know if the BC government really wants to do something to make a point of the opioid
Invest in your
crisis,
art.
invest in the art
Invest in-
community, invest in something for the children to do
Yeah.
instead of going to
absolutely.
drugs. You know, like
Yeah.
it's a hard thing because it's a very, you know, it's a very touching thing to talk about because a lot of people have lost family members, friends, and
You know,
there's a lot
people-
of musicians that have
Yeah.
been lost because of it. So especially over COVID, you know, I think the numbers in BC were like 3 times as high for suicide and opioid over the last year.
Yeah, it's been pretty rough. It's
Mhm.
been real rough times. Everybody's lost somebody. Everybody knows somebody.
Mhm.
It's been a pandemic of opioids way before
Yeah, it's
COVID
been
ever.
over 10 years.
I mean,
Oh
well
yeah,
over
Yeah.
that.
you know how many people
Yeah.
got to die for it to be? You know, it's supposed to be a national emergency here or something like that, but nothing is being done. People
Yeah,
are
no.
just
Honestly, if you gave people a place to go and listen to live music, fuck, they wouldn't need to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's right.
Especially with like, I mean, we're lucky, one of the luckiest countries in the world because weed is legal here. So I mean, people are chill already, especially in BC, because that's just how we've always been, you know. So like,
Yeah.
fuck it, just like you want to make a difference, start where it's logical. Give them back, give back to the community with music, with art. Because like where we're from, Kelowna and Penticton, we have a band shell outside. It's called a band shell. Bands
Yes.
can't rent it. We cannot rent it to perform, and it's an outdoor venue because it's too loud. Fucking tear the goddamn thing down and put an apartment building up. Then don't like, you know, don't tease us with something like that. So
We have band shells all over the Lower Mainland here, or the Metro Vancouver area.
yeah,
Parks, you know, and city parks and Langley, that sort of thing. That, yeah, bands, no way to have live music there. No way,
right?
it's way too loud, and you know, freak out the neighbors and freak out the neighborhood. And they'll be like, you know, pitchforks and torches at the gates, kind of stuff at City Hall.
Unless it's ad stuff.
Aztalk,
Mhm.
Ridge and Maple Ridge, those guys put on a hell of a show.
Yeah.
The outdoor venue out in Maple Ridge in Haney there, and we played it 2 years in a row, and it was amazing. It's a good experience, and that's so rare though, you know, like what they were doing, you know.
Well, it's hard to find space now for that because with a festival, you want to be close to a populated area because nobody's going to go out into the middle of nowhere to go to a 3-day festival. But you need to have far enough away for like the residents, the people who don't care about the music, so that way they'll at least get, maybe they get a little bit of money, maybe it's just part of the agreement, but they already know they already know not to worry about complaining for like 3 days out of the year or something like that.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen a few times. I've seen it in Florida, I've seen it in Texas, and especially like when cities grow. Austin is going through this with some of their venues where some of the places that used to be like outdoor stages for bars, houses came up around those areas, and then the people who moved in started complaining about the loud noise. So then the bar had to close the outside stage.
Yeah.
So it's always a fight going back and forth, especially for outdoor venues.
Yeah.
Trying to find a place, and the festivals have a good festival brings in enough money and can suck up a large enough space that they don't have to worry about it. I mean, at the end of the
it's
day, it
true.
really all comes down to money.
I mean, one way around that in BC would be like, I mean, how many bands are renting out the Peony Forum right now? Right? How many local bands are able to rent the Peony Forum? If we have the event center here in Penticton, that's where like Alice Cooper's coming to play, you know what I mean? But it sits empty.
Yeah.
Unless there's a big venue coming through a hockey game. So like, why can't local areas be willing to rent those kind of things out for a cheaper price just to bring in the community?
Center, isn't it?
Like a local,
Yeah, right.
Local festival.
Like we used to have Battle of the
All
Bands.
ages, so you don't need the licenses for liquor or nothing like that. It could be all ages. You can have kids there, and it's just, for teenagers. Yeah, you could, especially if there's the local community rec center, because that's the community rec center. What's metal? Community, right? There's a metal community. It's music, right? It's an art. So art is art, and you can't really discriminate on art, right? That's the thing.
Yeah, and that's what I think. BC has definitely been weird with that because we could make a lot of big changes real easily. You know what I mean?
Put the bipolar on their art, what they consider art, what's and what's not.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm working on yeah, it's true. I'm working on a series of episodes about the industry, basically, and one of them is about how musicians don't get paid as artists for their art. Because you look at a tattoo artist who can make thousands of dollars off of an arm sleeve, a painter who can sell a painting for 12 grand, graphic designers can charge $50 an hour. Why can't we get paid a cent for a stream? Why can't we get paid more than door? Why can't we get a guarantee from venues? Like, it's things like that it's just so weird.
So a lot of that comes down to like when you're negotiating with the venue. If you're a big enough band and you have a proven big enough draw, venues will give you some guarantees. But
yeah, the only way to do that though is to prove that is to get signed. And then you can say we're a professional band.
Like
but
we're like I've always like when we booked our own shows, like we pretty much book our own shows, and we get together some bands who are friends of ours, so with that, and we'll put on a show, and I usually kind of just approach and say, there's most of the places that we played at that we worked for, worked at like the Wolf Bar out Maple Ridge, they're really great. Doug and those guys, and Past Pub. It's always been
Funky Winker Beans.
That was fun too. But there wasn't there to play to make money. I mean, to even we never really charged anything at the door, even except for whether the venue wanted to charge for themselves, I guess. To cover our charge, and sometimes we get a little bit of money. Like we get enough money to kind of share out to the other bands. Here's gas money, thanks guys.
Yeah.
But
some of that's on us though. I mean, honestly, like we do it because we love it, but we also need to recognize what
the value.
And I think that's
sell ourselves to like a venue to say to a bar, hey, like here's how big we are, here's what we can draw, here's what we want, and then sort of negotiate from there. I mean, a little bit on that is because like that's why you have managers. That's what the
Mhm.
manager is supposed to do.
You're your own manager now.
Yeah.
It's your own manager, you gotta kind of do it yourself. Otherwise, you're just gonna sort of take what they offer.
And I think that's what's happened is that a lot of bands just took what was offered and then it became the norm. Oh, we'll take the door. It became the norm versus, like they'll pay cover bands $2,000 a night.
Play somebody else's music.
Right.
Not playing, like playing radio hits you can hear at home.
Yeah. So it kind of drives me nuts that they're willing to pay cover band $2,000, but they won't pay a local band $100, $200. So it's a weird, like, I don't know if, yeah, right. Like some venues do. Some venues definitely do give you that guarantee.
Yeah.
But I
some
think
great, like, we dealt some really great straight up people here.
Mhm.
There's some, but again, it's not, they're, can't be for the money, that's for sure.
right.
I need to leave before the money shows up. So I'm out of here, man.
I don't know any other human on the planet besides metal musicians who work harder and deal with more no's than yeses. You know what I mean? Like we strive through everything. Nothing will stop a metal band if they're dedicated. And I think that's something people you need to look at and appreciate versus just like looking at it as other musicians. Like, no, we're hard fucking workers. We wake up, we work. A lot of people work jobs and then they come home and they still work. You know what I mean? Like
40 years later, the song that I think I appreciate now more than ever as a musician is AC/DC. It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. Go
yep.
through and you read the lyrics, it's like, yep, that's true. Been there, done that, had that, been there.
It's definitely a diary of a band. Definitely of everybody's band, no doubt.
Yeah. And I think that's what I miss about full albums is that's what that was. You know what I mean? Like the full album was the story the band wanted to tell at that time.
Yeah.
That was their story at that moment. And I think that the fact that we're kind of forced now to singles, constantly having to just put out singles, it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to say it ruins creativity because it makes you focus on writing better music.
Yeah.
But
Like
every
you said,
band needs to have those songs that aren't singles.
Well, it kind of interests their band's continuity too, right?
Mhm.
Of them writing their own story through their music, their own evolution, their own story, their own personal evolution, I guess, whatever their content is. It's it's important to have that, but to write singles and write for the single kind of thing. I never really saw it as that. Not really. I don't know.
Singles are weird. Singles used to be just the promotion for the album.
Yeah.
You would write the album, get it all recorded, get it all done.
Put out one or two songs.
It was the most popular, and then give it to the audience to say, here's a taste. Buy the album. Come see our show. And then what happened was that eventually the singles started just making a ton of money all on their own. So that's, especially with radio play, because that's what radio is going to play is your singles. So that's, that's where that direction came from of writing towards a single. It's trying to get on the radio.
Yeah. Which is weird too, because there used to be a lot more metal radios. Now they're all underground, but there used to be a lot more music stations that used to play heavier music. And I think they all kind of just slowly died out. I was going to ask, is the Fox still killing it down there or no?
I don't know. I didn't listen to the radio.
Not really. I guess so. I mean, they play a lot of the popular stuff and kind of, but I rarely hear them play metal. Maybe every once in a while Metallica, maybe like a later at night or something like that. But
I remember the Fox used to play like heavier shit when I was younger. I remember loving the Fox because they'd play local bands that were heavy.
Well, they would do Seeds every once in a while, but that seemed kind of too. We'll see what happens with that. Who knows, right? If they're still doing a Seeds contest, ready to promote local stuff, or
yeah, I applied for the Seeds when I was like 15. There was no way I was making it.
It seems very regional though, because before I lived in Texas, I lived in Florida, and where I lived in Florida, I mean, metal was all over the place. I mean, like regular radio stations, you'd be hearing you usually wait till like after 10 to hear like new Slayer or new the heavier stuff.
Never
But
hear
during
Slayer.
the day, you would be hearing like all sorts of heavy stuff during the day that was more popular.
Yeah.
But when I moved to Austin, though, radio there was very much based around like indie rock and pop. And my understanding is that if you go up to Dallas or go down to Corpus Christi, you'll get more metal on the radio there.
Yeah,
than you
that's
will
what I've heard
in
too.
Austin. So it seems kind of regional, and it's weird chicken and the egg thing with trying to get like metal in, metal on the radio. I
Yeah.
have a feeling it's probably gonna have to come out of like community radio or something like that. Somebody's gonna have to start a community radio show.
Yep.
Yeah.
You used to be one. Remember on Channel 4 that guy used to play metal and you always had the no, Channel 3 is okay, this is going back. Sorry, I'm reminiscing like an old man. Sorry about that. Okay.
I smoke a lot of pot, so
We spoke a lot.
Who doesn't? No, that's it's definitely a weird industry. I'm curious to see how things change.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. I definitely think that our government, the BC government, should step its game up, because I love talking with BC bands, because I mean, I get to talk to bands all over, but BC I connect with because it's our scene, it's our home, and I
Yeah.
think there's something broken here and it drives me nuts. So I know when when I was in a band called the Pasties and Ninja Spy was coming out, and they're from Vancouver and we used to play with them all the time. Like, the music scene, the shows we used to have were so fun. So many people would come out, and now it's like, I don't know, you can barely get 10 people to a show. So you have to have 4 bands, and then you got 40 people at a show.
Yeah, because they brought their friends.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
it's their girlfriends, and there's 5
Yeah.
bands. You know what I mean? Like, girlfriends bring a friend, and yeah, it's like,
Yeah, it's a night out.
it's just
night
it's
out, you
weird.
just happen to be the entertainment that you brought yourself.
Mhm.
That's also on the city as well, because Austin invests very heavily into maintaining a music scene, just
Mhm.
because it's part of their identity as a city. Vancouver really doesn't have music as part of its identity. So
It did
I
for a
think
while.
if somebody can convince the Vancouver city government to invest back into live music and live music venues, I think that's a good place where they could step in and actually improve things.
Mhm.
And then from there, it'll just snowball once the private places, once like the bars and all the private event promoters see that and see the money that can come in from that, then they'll start picking it up all on their own.
Yeah.
That's actually what happened in Austin.
And we'll just send this video to the Vancouver city. City of
Yes.
Vancouver. We'll just send this and just be like, watch this episode. You guys are stuck watching it now. This is how your local musicians feel, just so you know.
Just need a little bit more like recognition, and recognition as an art form.
Well,
A little love,
Yeah, no, for sure.
not too much love.
because and learn how to play an instrument. They'll inspire kids to learn how to play an instrument, because they'll hear it and go, wow, it's powerful, it's cool, right? It's aggressive, it makes them feel something. And then they'll want to go and pick up a guitar and start learning how to play it, and form their own bands, form their own ways of expressing themselves and connecting with other people.
Yeah.
And it needs funding, it needs support. Absolutely. Because
No, for
like
sure.
I said, especially doing all ages shows. I mean, yeah, we're older dudes. I'm a grandpa, actually. So and so's Don. So so it oh, yeah. I thought but oh, sorry, preemptive anyway. But I know nothing. No, I know nothing. But yeah, it's important for kids to get involved in the music scene. It's important to be playing, right? It's and to promote old age shows, so kids got somewhere to go, like you said, so they're not get fucked up on the wrong things, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's a major thing that needs to change in our scene for sure. Because that's not all over the world. It's not I mean, drug problems are all over the world, but BC has a crazy opioid crisis. And I think it's because they've taken everything away. Like, we used to have water slides and like a game farm with like a zoo and like all these cool things for kids to do. And now, quite literally, there's nothing in our town other than being shitheads and breaking shit. Like, that's all there is for them to do. So it would be nice to see a change in that.
Yeah.
If there was anything in the industry you guys would change, what do you think it would be?
Pardon me?
If there was anything in the industry that you would change, what do you think it would be?
More open venues and easier access to getting, shows played, to put on shows and bigger shows, and support local talent.
Mhm.
Support local people, and just embrace it.
Yeah, there's a huge push for support local business, but there's no support local bands.
For your art, you can't just have business without art.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And all artists too. Everybody.
Mhm.
But especially bands and us metalheads and who want to go out and see bands or be part of bands and be in bands who do want to support us so we can get out there and play.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's we need to see a change. Excuse me, and I think it will happen, especially after COVID. But I don't think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be us who does it. You know what I mean? Like I think bands are just gonna collectively get together and say, "Fuck it, we're just gonna do something."
Stuff like this, man. This stuff like this, channels like this, what you guys are doing, this stuff like this, that really helps. This is this lays the foundation to it, to the next step, the next
Mhm.
generation kind of thing, the next.
Just next.
Just the next. The big
I
end.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything you guys want to say before we wrap up?
Come check us out on our Facebook page, Dark Originn.
Yeah.
Live metal. Support us.
your scene, man.
Yeah, go see bands, buy their stuff, even online. We got some masks somewhere. I don't know, but we got, we're a little
Yeah,
lax.
we got some merch and blah blah blah, but music. It's
Everybody.
all about the music, man.
Right?
And it will get better. It's rough right now, but it's going to get better. The
Yeah.
future is bright. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, for sure. Well, thank you guys for coming on. We'll definitely, when you release the music, let me know and we'll have you back on.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much.
Looking forward to your next album. And you guys stay safe. I'll talk to you soon.
And to you.
And to you, thanks, guys.
Peace, brothers.
Peace.
Buddy, this is my customer service voice. Thanks for checking out the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and fucking hit the bell, alright? So you can stay up to date on all the new episodes.